All right, what's going on, guys? So, I'm doing a Tuesday night live because I totally forgot that I got put on weekend duty. And so Sunday I couldn't do one. Probably would have just done one Saturday night because, that would have been probably the thing that made more sense. But my dumbass totally forgets that that I got to work the weekend. So it's Sunday. It's Sunday night. I'm just sitting there kind of chilling. Went down to Five Guys. I finally checked my phone because I don't really check it that much on the weekends. I'm not one of those. I used to be one of those people that was constantly like text messaging and stuff like that. I stopped doing it because I'm like, what's the point of this? You know what I mean? So it's like, I might text you if it's throughout the day, get a text. I might respond. We might have a conversation for like 10, 20 minutes. Then we're talked out. You're still sending me messages. They'll get longer and longer apart because I'm just doing other things. But yeah, that's why I'm doing this Tuesday night live stream. I'm going to be doing it Tuesday night for probably the next month. And then it'll be back to Sunday. Should have brought it up, but I think I just forgot. So, anyways, what's going on out there in the world? We had the No Kings Protest, the grassroots protest against Donald Trump funded by billionaires like George Soros or Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg, whoever. You have that lame mess. We'll start off with that. Then we have the gold market tanking. People are acting surprised. It's like, dude, I saw a whole bunch of stuff on YouTube. And I'm like, what do you guys think is going to happen? Gold normally is half to 2.5. Or not 2.5. The S&P normally trades about 2 times to 2.5 times gold. It's usually between 12 and 17. The Dow is usually 12 to 17 times gold. Okay? So if you just look at the numbers on where the market is, gold should probably be trading somewhere around, I don't know, 3,000, 2,500 to 3,000 an ounce. But, as much as I'm an actual fan of the guy, Peter Schiff, like that dude, I don't know if it's because of the company that he has, Shift Gold, or it's just he's such a gold bug. But it's like, bro, when you're talking about like the death of the dollar, and that's, gold is revaluing itself, I don't disagree on the death of the dollar, but I think the death of the dollar is just massively overstated at this point, right? In order for there to be a new reserve currency, there has to be a currency that can basically do what the US dollar does and is backed by, multiple countries or whatever it is. But until you get there, I don't really foresee the possibility that the euro dollar system is going to be gone anytime within the next 10 to 15 years. Maybe after that, we're entering into uncharted territory. I don't know. I'm not going to sit here and make predictions. But again, we're at the end stage of a bull market. A lot of times at the end stage of a bull market, the last place that people go to is just commodities. And that, I don't know if you see oil, not the actual commodity, but if you see the oil companies shooting massively up, it's probably a bad sign at that point. I mean, we're looking at $57, $60 a barrel for oil. And really, I think it's somewhere around like $80, $85. That keeps the oil companies humming along. But we'll get into that. And also, I've got to comment on it because it's so lame. But the fallout from the Saudi Arabia Comedy Festival, I don't even remember if I did it a week ago, but there's still more. Like the copium coming from these pseudo comedians is amazing. And there's just like, I probably should have titled this The Massive Hate That's Entering into the Rogan Sphere. And you had to see it coming. I'm telling you, if we go into a bear market, a lot of these comedians are going to be in for a rude awakening. A lot of YouTubers are going to be in for a rude awakening when this happens. Because I've talked about this before. There was the craze in 2022, 2023 when the market started dropping. Okay? And what did you see YouTubers doing? It was the rush to members only. Like anybody on YouTube. How many, if you had to guess, how many people on YouTube would you realistically pay for? And why? What on you, like there's some guys out there that produce content I would be willing to pay for, but they're few and far between. It's not in the financial world. I'd rather just read a book, okay, or whatever. I'm not, here's a dude on YouTube I respect, even though I don't agree with him on quite a few things, and that's George Gammon. I like his videos. I like his approach. I like his personality. I don't always agree with the things that he's saying, but I don't have to. Gammon, I like his approach where he comes in and he's like, well, I didn't know anything about this, so I just had to start learning. And the guy's become quite knowledgeable. Doesn't come at it like an expert. His videos are great. I like Peter Schiff's podcast. With Peter Schiff, that dude's got gold on his brain. And it's only really a minor complaint about him. Very knowledgeable man. But I think there's some financial interest there. Because it doesn't make sense. Like, if somebody came to me and they were like, Jay, should I put precious metals in my portfolio? I'm a little bit different on the precious metals than a lot of the other people that you find on YouTube. So let me break that down real quick before we get into the No Kangs, which might be the lamest thing I've ever seen. But gold should be on hand. Gold and silver, platinum, any of the precious metals. That should be on hand. And there's a reason why I'm saying that. I think everybody, if we went back 5-6 years ago, I would have told you, I don't really see the point of gold. You know what I mean? It is what it is. It's like, am I getting a better return? I would have argued against all the gold. Well, I probably wouldn't have argued with them, but I probably would have sat there very skeptically, like the skeptical hippo that you're looking at. But pandemic, just, what governments around the world have been doing for like the past 5, 6 years. And I mean, this is a plan that's been laid out for a long time. Tony Blair wanted digital IDs going back to the late 90s. And thank God he didn't get them back then, because I think that was the time where you had to kind of sneak the digital ID in. I think you have, at this point, like Keir Starmer, Prime Minister of the UK, he can go out there and go, you must do this. Okay. Who cares what Keir Starmer says? Thoughts on physical holding. Now, see, this is where I've changed. All right? My thoughts on why all your precious metal, in my opinion, should be on hand is because of things like the pandemic. So, here's something I started doing recently. I started taking anywhere from $20 to up to $100 from my paycheck. Well, I'm starting it now. Forgive me. I have like 120 bucks in there. Yeah. Break in my house and rob me. You'll have a great 5 minutes at the strip club. No, I think physical gold, silver, platinum, even copper. Like, I bought this little smelter. I smelt down ingots now. It's fun. I got a little copper ingot sitting up there. How much is that thing worth? Probably, I don't know, 10 cents maybe. I just thought it was cool to make. But in an emergency situation, this is my point with cash on hand and precious metals on hand. You enter the zombie apocalypse. I don't know what to tell you at that point. But, so like with the pandemic, in seeing that, I want cash, precious metals, things I can barter on hand. Just because, let's go with, it's a natural disaster. Now, we all know every government on earth would like complete control and obedience from its populace. We know that. It is what it is. But you look at the debanking, okay? Look at what happened to the Canadian truckers. How do you know you're not going to run afoul of the government and draw its wrath? They don't care about you. All they care about is maintaining their system of control. But you're a trucker. They had every right in Canada to protest those obnoxious lockdowns from that obnoxious, feminine loser, Justin Trudeau. A man that's never had a job in his entire life decided to take away the livelihoods of other people. Okay, so they debank you, they freeze your accounts. What's next? Serious question. This is why I've arrived at the precious metals. Now, what I do, and I'm waiting for gold to go back down. When it's like $1,500 an ounce, I plan on buying a Cougar in or something. If it goes back down to those numbers, I don't know where it's going to go. What I said earlier, that the S&P is usually 2 to 2.5 times gold. It's not all the time, but I tend to think you could probably somewhat trust the long-term trend. The Dow, 12 to 17 times gold. But again, you run afoul with these governments. Like wherever you are, if you're in the UK, we should definitely be doing this. Because with the digital ID, or at least what they're attempting to do, is basically trap you so they control your money. And in reality, in the United States, if you look at what happened to the Backpage founder, Backpage, if you're unfamiliar, was a website. You could put up listings like Craigslist, things like that. Well, they had adult ads on there. And it was, woman seeking man or arrangement or whatever it was. Well, the Backpage decided to work with the FBI. And they would actively be like, hey, we got this thing, this could keep CP and, non-consensual acts off of the site and, put the proper authorities on the trail. Well, the FBI decided they wanted to go after the Backpage. Even though they had worked with the FBI on child trafficking and CP and other things, FBI just decides to shut them down. So what did they do next? They froze the guy's account. The guy had basically no money, so he couldn't get a defense team. The guy was actually wealthy, so he could have got a defense team, but this is something that the government does, especially the federal government. They freeze all of your assets so that you're forced to get like a shitty lawyer so they can cheat and win. My personal viewpoint on it is you have to convict this human being in a court of law. Once they're convicted, if you want to say, there's ill-gotten gains, then you can go to a civil court after that and convict them. But to me, it's a fundamentally lame thing. The government, I talk about this. The veil is being shattered. The government constantly thinks it needs to win every case. And it's like, that's fine if you're going after Ted Bundy. But if you're in a dispute with the government about, I don't know, what's the one where they take eminent domain, where they can take your property for the greater good of the community. And I hate that term, the greater good, because it's impossible to define. Yeah, Jay, you need to give up your firearms and your Second Amendment rights. You want to know why? The greater good. It's like, you just look at these smooth brains and you go, you trust the government? I could sit here for an hour. I'm not even particularly knowledgeable about a lot of this stuff. What you would, quote unquote, call a conspiracy theory. Even though conspiracy theorists are up about 100-1 at this point. And like the only losses the conspiracy theorists have are for straw man arguments. That's it. That's all it is. That's the only arguments you have. Well, Jay, you believe that there's more to the story of the JFK assassination than what the government is reporting. So you're a conspiracy theorist up there with the flat earthers. Yeah, that's basically what they do. Or, oh, you must be some kind of conspiracy theorist because you're a climate denier. Well, being a climate denier would indicate that your belief is actually a religion. Oh, are you a Holocaust denier? No, but it's well within somebody's right to deny that the Holocaust happened. It's kind of what we value in the West. But no, like high probability, the top has been set. Maybe. I see how this plays out, brother. You can know the market is overvalued, but until reality catches up, man. I mean, look, dude, here's the reality of it. We don't know what is going to happen, but we could sit here for the next 10 years and the market could still be just as overvalued or even more overvalued for 10 years. In that case, I'm not too worried about it. I'll double down on T-bills and then I'll find probably some niche. Look, dude, here's the reality of it. If it was getting to be too long, I might temporarily start buying something like Shida just as a placeholder if Shida's PE ratio is within a range where I don't feel that I'm getting ripped off. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe we'll see like what happens, but oh, dude. Yeah, Steelhead, I'm not skipping you, but I saw that. It's fun. Well, I didn't watch Chris's video on Meet Kevin. I meant to, but I was playing video games and I just didn't click on it. And then, I ate and got ready to do this. But yeah, I predicted Meet Kevin was going to lose that plane whenever he bought it. When I was still doing videos reacting on Meat Stiffer. I can't do it. I don't care about these people anymore. They're some of the most vapid, useless, Meet Kevin, Andre Geek, Jeremy LaFufu, all of them are some of the least charismatic, moronic human beings I've ever seen. And I have no idea how they're so big on YouTube. And, it's your prerogative. Go watch it. But I'm not going to. But I do think it's hilarious that Meat Puffer had to sell that jet. And this should tell you something about the financial intelligence of financial YouTubers. Jeremy is only in the positive. Stepsis Myepsis ran this experiment. Jeremy is only in the positive because of Palantir. Andre Geek is so dumb, he got a variable rate mortgage based on his YouTube money. Meat Grinder buys a jet. Oh, but anyways, all right, I got to get off that. Let me finish my point on the gold. Whatever the emergency is, personally, I think it's much more likely you or me as average people. Nobody watches my podcast. And if the government wanted, I'm sure whoever spies on people, the NSA, the FBI, I'm sure it would be relatively easy for them to figure out who Jay Nagy is. Okay. Not that worried about it. What do I do? I call Obama a clown because I'd call him a clown to his face if he was a dick, right? I make fun of celebrities. I actually think I'm pretty nuanced on the three-letter agencies despite a lot of the atrocities that they've committed over the years. But again, if you're debanked or something like that, I just think you're going to be much better off with 5 to 10% of your portfolio made up of cash and precious metals that you have access to. It's like entire generations after the Great Depression didn't trust the banks. Well, what makes us so sure there can't be bank runs or a financial crisis approaching that level in 2025 or 26? What makes us think that? Why? Because the Fed has FDI insurance up to $250,000? Well, again, I'd rather have that gold. And here's what I'm going to say to you guys, too. Hide your gold and silver and cash just in case. Look, this is the world you have. is not the one you want. If somehow you got caught up in something, let's just say you didn't even really do anything, you're not guilty of anything, whatever, you're not innocent. Courts don't determine innocence. They determine guilt or non-guilt. Okay. But, FBI, local sheriffs, they raid the wrong houses on occasion. Good luck getting your stuff back. I mean, the FBI, just so you guys know, they were targeting somebody, and I forget where this was. I think this was out in California. The FBI wanted to target a particular safety deposit box. They took everything out of every safety deposit box at that bank, and they didn't want to give people their jewelry or their cash back. Do you want to deal with that? That's what I'm saying. If you have some property, this is what it is. It's an idea. If you own property, like you're out in rural, or even if you're in the city and you have a backyard where people can't see you do it, go to the Home Depot or Lowe's, get yourself that industrial PVC piping, okay? One of the bigger ones, capped on, so you can cap it on both ends, right? Put some gold, put some silver, put some cash, a firearm, and, some ammunition in there. Bury it in the ground. Only you know where it is. Who cares? Why? That's your emergency. And even, look, hey, you might look at me weird. Throw an MRE or two in there also. Bury that in your backyard. You never know. I mean, this is literally like 20 minutes of short work to ensure that you always have access to food or, some supplies in case you need them. I don't know what kind of crime some of my listeners get up to, and I would say don't do it. But what I'm just saying is, remember, anything can happen, right? Let's say your house gets raided, right? Say you didn't do anything wrong. It was literally a case of mistakes were made. Your house got raided. They confiscated every firearm, confiscated all the cash out of your safe, gold, whatever was in there got taken. Okay? How long is it going to take you to get that back from the police? So meanwhile, you're sitting there. You don't have any cash on hand in case anything happens. What this is the worst case scenario imaginable. You got raided. 3 weeks later, get the storm of the century. The power is out for 2 weeks, because the entire East Coast went down from this once-in-a-century storm. I don't know if they blew up a substation. The storm, spawned a tornado that went through a substation. And now the whole East Coast is going to be without power for the next 2 to 3 weeks. Where's your money? Also, law enforcement's going to be pretty busy. Where are you getting food? The pandemic made me think about all these things that I had never thought about before. And it just kind of changed my opinion about gold, silver, platinum, having cash on hand, and having emergency supplies. So it's not only the gold and the silver. That's what I was talking about. But I think you should have all sorts of supplies in your house that you might never need, just in case. A CB radio that runs on batteries. A ham radio that runs on batteries. Multiple flashlights, first aid kit, obviously, a pallet of MREs or food that doesn't go bad that you can store for 25 years. You're going to laugh at me when I say this. You should probably have a couple burlap sacks on hand. You should probably have a bunch of those, PVC piping tubes on hand. Tools, hammers, nails, supplies. That's all I'm saying with it. And that's kind of where I've evolved on gold and silver. So what I have been doing is I go and I buy the little $50 silver coins. I'll buy like 4 at a time, and I just chuck them in my fireproof safe along with cash. Once the gold price drops, a couple of times a year, I'm going to go in, get some gold, chuck that in my safe, and some in my hidden PVC pipe. And it is what it is, man. But I don't think you should do paper gold. I just don't. I mean, I think you can get. What's the point? What's the point of owning gold? What is the point of owning paper gold? I don't get it. I don't. Oh, the GDXJ. Well, it went up. Okay. Nvidia went up. Palantir went up. Okay. Like, I don't care. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's just, that's what I think of it. I don't see the point of adding paper gold to your portfolio. God bless you if you want to do it, but I want that shit on hand. Case if marijuana users can be prohibited from 2A. Good episode one night. Yeah, I'll probably talk about it. The Supreme Court's doing a couple of things, which I'm hoping the race-based gerrymandering gets shot down, and it looks like it's going to happen. My problem with the Democrats is people, they just think they're owed power. I'm not really, to be honest with you, I vote Republican, but I'm not really a big fan of Republicans either. You guys know me. I'm not a big fan of politicians. I like Trump, but Trump was a celebrity before he was president. I think Trump truly does love the country. And I think he is a patriot. I just don't, I don't agree with him all the time. I don't know why that seems to be a prerequisite. Where it's like, oh, well, did you vote for Trump? Yeah. Well, why aren't you trusting him? I don't trust anybody implicitly. Trust is a thing that's earned. I don't know why anybody thinks because you win a popularity contest, I'm going to be 100% with you on every issue. I don't know. Like certain things he's doing. Look, if we're going to go jack Venezuela's oil, let's just go jack Venezuela's oil. Okay? Personally, I don't think it needs to come to that. If we need the oil, I think Maduro would be willing to work with us if we just went down there, pulled up some warships, and we're like, yo, sell oil to who you want to sell to, but you're selling it to us too. All right? So, but it's like these guys are narco-terrorists. Well, the CIA has been dealing drugs in America for at least the past 60 years. It's probably been longer than that because I think the deep state, or whatever term you want to use, has been using the drug war since the 1940s. Rumor is Chiang Kai-shek takes over Taiwan, and that was all funded with drug money. Right? And he was supplied with drugs from America to take over Taiwan. So it is what it is. You're not really going to get too far with me with that argument. There's a lot of arguments out there that I don't even understand I really don't understand how people think these are logical arguments that would sway me from my position. I was watching this debate between Nick Gillespie and Asa Hutchins. Nick Gillespie is a writer for Reason magazine, and it was put on by Reason, and it was about cannabis. Okay? And Asa Hutchins, former governor of Arkansas, dude's a swamp rat, was head of the DEA for a while. He reads this thing, and I've talked about this before, but he reads this thing to like back up his point. And it was this whole thing about having used marijuana, even though that's not actually the name of the plant. The name of the plant is actually cannabis. Okay? And no, weed doesn't make you lazy. There's different strains: indica, sativa, and ruderalis. Now, nobody really smokes ruderalis, if I'm saying it correctly. I think I am, because it's been a long time since I've read about this stuff. But we'll just go with indica and sativa. But anyways, he reads this quote, and then it's about how this person used weed, understands the arguments, but doesn't support its legalization. And then he says, that was Barack Hussein Obama, President of the United States, who said that about cannabis. I'm just watching this and I go, I have no idea why anybody thinks that's an argument. I'd say the same thing about Donald Trump. Okay? Like if I was sitting there and I was like, yeah, I'm going to go home and smoke a J. And they were like, you know, Donald Trump doesn't approve of that. I would look at the person and go, why do you think I give a shit if Donald Trump approves of me going home and smoking a J? Like, how is this relevant to my life? Barack Hussein Obama doesn't approve. I really honestly think a lot of people in politics believe they're the parents and the populace are the children to be told what to do. And I'm just going to tell you this right now. It is a very rare thing that I see on TV where I see somebody and I go, yeah, that dude's smart. He should be telling other people what to do. Mostly, I mean, did you guys watch the mayoral debate in New York City? That was pathetic. Cuomo, and then they have the one dude out there who's, you know, with the whatever guardian angels or whatever that is, whatever that dude is doing. I don't know who he is, but he's up there and he's talking, and I'm like, this dude's a fucking rhino. See, that's my problem with Republicans. My problem with Republicans isn't the ideology that informs them. My problem with them is a lot of them are rhinos. They're just, it's the same thing. Democrats, Republicans, anytime there's anything out there with a little bit of prestige to it, just know some psychopath will come into that organization, hollow it out, and wear it around like a skin suit, doing their little kooky dance in the mirror, going, tucking their dick probably in their skin suit, going, you know, pulling on their nipples, going, would you fuck me? I'd fuck me. That's basically anything with prestige in the world. Some loser is going to hollow it out and run around, dance around inside that skin suit until it just doesn't work anymore. Until the prestige is drained out of it, you know, like a virgin at a vampire party. And then they're always surprised. They're always surprised when the skeptical working class plebes come back to him and go, fuck off. What do you mean? Is anybody else just sick of these people, right? It is what it is, man. It's the same thing. It's all these people They have these grandiose ideas in their head that they're going to save humanity. And if everybody would just listen to me and do what I want people to do, we'd all get to the utopia. You know, nobody would have to actually work a real job. You could touch your asshole on OnlyFans, you know, to pictures of Barack Obama while he's drone striking Pakistani kids. True story. Killed like 100,000 Pakistanis in that tribal area. There's not really a big difference between Afghanistan and Pakistan. Don't know if you guys know that. But when you get up into those border regions, I don't want to go there. That's not a place I want to be. But, yeah, which transitions nicely into the whole No Kings protest. This was the whitest boomer hippie movement we've seen since all these dirty, disgusting hippies took acid at Woodstock and made some babies in the mud. Like, did you see these people? And I would love to just talk to somebody about this. Like, that was actually at the protest that would listen. Like, why are you here? I'm here because I'm protesting Trump. Because, you know, we're all about inclusivity. Except if you don't agree with them on politics, then they're exclusive. But all it was a bunch of dumb, aging hippies walking around, and then there were a few people in like furry costumes or something. Just generally a cavalcade of the most useless human beings on the planet. Right? Prince Philip of the UK basically called anybody that wasn't an aristocrat a useless eater. Now, I could get into the more realistic viewpoint on that, is that Prince Philip, as a royal, is actually the useless eater. Royals are useless. What the fuck do you need a king for? I mean, I guess to handle the bureaucracy, but this loser's going to walk around with a crown on his head, adorned in some weird elitist clothing. And I'm supposed to just like fall to my knees and go, "Oh, my liege, these don't want me to fight in the Crusades," even though it was the Muslims that actually started the fight in the Crusade. I don't understand how you had a bunch of foreign barbarians invading Europe, and then they just said, you know what, enough of this. They got kicked out of the Iberian Peninsula. Let's just go to Jerusalem and start hacking people up. It's a brutal time. They were all barbarians back then. But one was a foreign invading barbarian. Right? I'd go to Jerusalem too and start lopping off some heads also. I mean, in all honesty, I would have died from the plague because I'm not that tough. But, and in all honesty, I wouldn't have been the guy swinging the sword. I probably would have been like, if I was going on the Crusades then, so I guess I'm stopping into my local recruiter. I had some people tune out because apparently they don't like me talking about barbarians, but whatever. But anyways, like, if I was living in medieval times, I'd be throwing around a lot of yees and thous, I guess. Thou hast. Even though they didn't talk like that back then. But I show up at my recruiter. Like, yeah. I'm going to go over Jerusalem, man. Get some revenge. Okay. What are your skills? Can you fight? Yeah, not really that well. I probably would have, my AFSC, because I would have joined the Air Force even back then. In medieval times. I probably would have taken something easy, like, cart repair or whatever. Maybe I would have been a cooper or something, built barrels or whatever. I would have done something. Probably wouldn't have been on the front line. Wow. Okay, sorry, I'm back. Man, I slammed up against my desk. I was panicking there. is obviously a smug hippopotamus. We can all see. Yeah, no, I know. That smug. That see what happened is I was in the presence of George Clooney one night. And like I didn't even talk to him, but I walked past George Clooney and like his smug just rubbed off on me, and then I just became smug from that point on. It's like, yeah, but no, dude, like the No Kings protest. See, people tuned out because the mic went out, but the No Kings protest. I was like, how do you guys not know that this is all paid for by people like George Soros, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerbucks? How do you not know this is the case? Like, how are you that uninformed, but yet you want to run out into the street and you want to run out in the street, show your virtue, and talk about how I'm dumb and uninformed, yet you didn't know that you were attending a protest paid for by George Soros. It is what it is, man. All right. Wow. Okay. Strongman. Yeah. I've been hearing about AI from even janitors, Lyft drivers, and the blue collar workers. This might be a sign for a massive dump, possibly. Well, yeah. I mean, look, it doesn't matter what somebody's job is. So people need to get that out of their head. There's people that are very knowledgeable on finance, on investing, I should say. I've done it. I've done a video, even though it's taken down, about the janitor who made, he had like a $5 or $6 million portfolio. And this was back in like the 60s and 70s. So, somebody could be whatever, a janitor or a Lyft driver, and still be pretty knowledgeable about what's going on in the market. But that being said, yeah, Joe Kennedy talked about this, how he, sold all his stocks right before the 1929 crash. And it was because a shoeshine boy gave him a stock tip. And he knew the market was overvalued. But my brother overheard an even more revealing conversation about the state of the economy. He was just sitting at he had to do something, but he was at the bar and he overheard this guy talking to his buddy. And this guy was, I don't know what the guy did, but he was like in construction. But he said, you know how I know there's a bubble? And he goes, there's going to be a stock market crash. He goes, all of my friends for the past 2 years have been doing nothing but piling on credit card debt. Again, this is what happens in bubbles. It just, people think the good times never end. They get levered up. They become convinced of their own smug superiority. And they go, everybody that came before me is stupid. I have this game down. And then when you look at them and you go, listen, this is the highest Buffett indicator we've ever seen. They go, oh, well, you don't know. You're just old. You don't understand crypto. It's a new paradigm. And you just, what? Like, that's the problem. A lot of times, there's just certain subjects where, and few of them are, I understand how a new investor coming into a bull market can get convinced of their own ability very easily, where they don't know anything about what they're doing, but they're buying these stocks and they're going up and they're hitting every time. But eventually that luck runs out. It's just the nature of it. So yeah, I don't. But Pat, it's definitely a sign, man, because you can. It actually extends to almost everything. You guys remember that show? What is the name of it? I'll just describe it. You'll know it. It was on History Channel, I want to say, where the people would go around and they would bid on lockers, like storage units. And the show that got that to take off was obviously fake. They went to some people in the area who were into it, and they go, we want to film a fake reality TV show. Okay. Well, I started hearing about people going and doing that, getting like super into it around the time that show came out. This is the sad reality of the world. Most people are not original thinkers. Most people don't know what they're doing in virtually anything. And they overestimate their ability, the Dunning-Kruger effect. But yeah, like a lot of these, yeah, I don't disagree with you on that. I'm just saying sometimes appearances can be deceiving. On the whole, does somebody know something about... I've met people that didn't go to school for any of it that were very knowledgeable. And I even learned from them. So, I mean, my brother, I know more than him. And I my brother's not going to be a financial advisor. But my brother is knowledgeable enough to know the basics of what he's doing. And again, he went to school for civil engineering. I went to school for finance, but yeah, it is what it is. I mean, we're in a bubble. It's not a crime if you don't get caught. I agree. Good evening, Jay. Yeah, sorry, man. I leaned over and I smacked my mic, and then it went out. All right, we're going to do one more subject, and then I'm probably going to get out of here. Normally, I would do the comments, but it's a Tuesday night. I didn't know what to expect, but the meltdown. Or do I want to do this aside? I think I actually want to think this one out. You know what I'm going to do? I'm probably just going to call this podcast. It's been 53 minutes. And probably next Monday or Tuesday, I might do 2 next weekend because there's just not a lot to do during the week. But yeah, I'll probably cover the Saudi blood money thing. I want to actually kind of want to let this thing fester. But let's see where I go with it. I'm going to talk a little bit more if you guys want to listen. If you got other more productive shit to do, I understand. I'm really not that entertaining. But what is this? It's a sign in the economy. Okay? I want you to go back 3-4 years. Everybody was locked down. YouTube was just blowing up. You know, it's like, it kind of goes into, I got to get into the Rogan sphere a little bit too. I don't want to go too deep into that because I kind of want to make both these separate. But I'm going to throw out just a little bit of my thoughts. If you look, Rogan's podcast numbers are dropping off. And to me, it's kind of a sign of the times. Okay? You know, I don't really... I actually knew when he was getting 10 million views an episode that wouldn't last because there's just too much other stuff going on. But in what I want to get into deeper is comedians turning on Rogan. And I'm not going to ride Rogan's D. He's done some things that kind of make him deserve it. But also, it just goes to show you how... I've tried to explain this to people about comedians. I started doing comedy. I was pretty whacked out on drugs from the VA. And I made a few friends doing comedy. But how I describe comedians for the most part is they're just theater kids. They're theater kids that think they're way funnier and clever than they really are. They're backstabby. Like one dude in this area, John Jacobs. If you want to look him up, he moved to New York City. He's a digital content creator there, which being a digital content creator is cool when you're like 20. And this is the thing about a lot of these comedians. None of them have really any skills. Some of them do, that work day jobs. But like a lot of them, they don't have fucking jobs. They don't have any skills. Like I don't even know what half of them do. But they will turn on you. And you're only... It's worse out in LA than it is in Tampa. And it's probably even not as bad in New York City. Right? I said some shit about New York City. Lost some listeners because of it. You gotta understand, Western, upstate, the rest of the state of New York and New York City don't have the greatest relationship. Because, again, they act like theater kids. Even when they come upstate, a lot of times, they act like they're blessing us with their presence. But what's happening to the Rogan sphere doesn't surprise me in the slightest. You know, and Rogan has a lot of bad people around him. And the only reason I'm throwing this out is so you can get a sense of who comedians really are. But like Whitney Cummings, one of the most insufferable girl bosses out there. She's losing fans because she went to Saudi Arabia. Dave Chappelle's getting hit. So is Andrew Schultz. And what did you think was going to happen? It's one thing if you're a comedian and you're up there. And I mean, you do politics, but you hit both sides. You go and you do Saudi Arabia. You've never virtue signaled in your entire life. See, this is the problem with virtue signaling. Never virtue signaled. You are completely at ease with who you are. You know what I mean? There's no disconnect there. It's really what pisses people off. See, this is what these comedians aren't getting. It's not so much that you went to Saudi Arabia. It's that you courted the people trying to be the paragon of virtue. And you go over to a country, number one, that flew planes into the towers. You know, probably with a little assist from John Brennan. Whitney Cummings, a girl boss, feminist, goes over there. Not even a funny comedian. I'm actually done with the whole comedian thing because none of these guys can write a joke. When was the last time there was a good comedy special on that made you laugh? When? Who? I haven't seen any. In fact, I don't think any of these guys are that funny. I watch them on podcasts, and they're not even funny there. They're, again, theater kids. And, yeah, I don't know. But That's just my preliminary thoughts on it. I thought I'd share it. Not that it's that important. But, anyways, hey, I'm going to go ahead and call it. I just want to say thank you guys for tuning in, whoever did, whether you stayed a minute or the whole time. Yeah, I probably should have planned this podcast out a little bit better. I didn't. Kind of fly by the seat of my pants, but it is what it is. So, I just want to say I hope you guys have a great week. I should be back. I'm going to be back next weekend, which will be Monday, Tuesday. Yeah, I normally have a few more people in here. I'm not surprised. I did this on an off night. But, hey, I just want to say I appreciate you guys for listening. And I'll see you guys next week. And much love. I hope you guys have a great week. And I'm out.